Imagine holding a piece of that holographic foil, or maybe one of those high-tech car paints.
Oh yeah, the ones that shift color.
Exactly. You look at it one way, it's this brilliant emerald green, but then you just tilt it a little, change the angle of the light, and bam, it flips to this blazing magenta.
Right.
Now, take that idea and shrink it down to a single molecule. A single molecule where the color change isn't from the angle, but from the actual energy of the light you shine on it.
And that's the whole game right there. That phenomenon is called excitation-dependent emission, or XD for short. And for years, getting a really robust color change like that has been, well, kind of the white whale for materials science.
Because the old way was messy, right?
Oh, completely. If you wanted a material that could shift colors, you basically had to mix a bunch of different fluorescent molecules together. It was like making a chemical cocktail.
And I'm guessing that cocktail doesn't age well.
Not at all. You put different things together, they eventually want to separate. It's just physics. So you get what the researchers call color aging. Your fancy security tag or your display it fades, it degrades.
So the holy grail is finding one single component, one molecule, that can do all the work by itself.
That's it. And the inspiration really comes from nature. Think of a chameleon, how it adjusts nanocrystals in its skin. That's dynamic, intrinsic control. We want to build that synthetically.
And that search is exactly what brings us to today's deep dive. We're looking at a really fascinating paper published in Nature Communications. It's titled Single Component-Based Multicolor Emissions Enabled by Symmetry Breaking.
This work comes out of Shaanxi Normal University in China from a team that includes Simin Lin, Zhubin Wang, and Yu Feng, and their whole mission was pretty ambitious. They said, let's forget mixing things.
Right.
Let's instead take a single molecule and, just force it into a weird, non-symmetrical shape to unlock new properties.
Okay, let's unpack that. The revolutionary idea here is molecular symmetry breaking. We need to figure out how taking something that's supposed to be perfect and intentionally breaking it actually makes it better.
Yes, that's the paradox.
So let's meet the star of the show. The molecule they built is this star-shaped compound they call FeH3CP.
We should probably stick with FeH3CP because the full name is a bit of a mouthful.
Yeah, let's do that.
So FeH3CP is designed with what's called a tripodal architecture. You've got a central core, and then radiating out are 3 identical V-shaped branches. On paper, it looks like a perfect, symmetrical, 3-pronged star.
And you'd think, okay, perfect symmetry, it should give off just one color of light.
You would, but that's where the genius comes in.
So where's the twist?
The twist is in the branches themselves. They're designed to be really bulky. They take up a lot of space. So the key idea was this. If you design it just right, the molecular crowding forces those 3 identical arms to get, tangled up. They can't all sit in the same perfect arrangement.
Ah, I see. It's like trying to fit 3 huge armchairs into a tiny room. To make them fit, you have to twist one sideways, maybe tilt another one back. They can't all be perfectly aligned.
That's a great analogy. That induced asymmetry, that forced twist, is the secret sauce. They theorized it would work, and then they proved it. They crystallized FeH3CP from 4 completely different solvents.
So 4 different environments.
Right. And in every single case, the crystals they got trapped the molecule in a distinct asymmetric shape.
Wow.
That was the aha moment. It proved the molecule wants to be asymmetric, to be stable. It's an inherent property.
That is solid proof. It's not just some fluke.
Yeah.
So what does this forced asymmetry do for its light-emitting performance?
The results are pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
This one single molecule, FeH3CP, can give you multicolor emissions across a huge range. We're talking nearly 175 nanometers of the spectrum.
And that works no matter what state it's in.
Yep. Diluted in a solution, smeared into an amorphous film, or locked in a crystal. It just works. It's a single component color shifter.
One molecule, 175 nanometers of color. That's a massive range.
Yeah.
So how does breaking the symmetry actually give you 2 different electronic pathways?
Okay, so this is the core mechanism, and it's really elegant. In a normal symmetrical molecule, light hits it, the electron gets excited, and it usually follows one main path back down, releasing one color. That's called a localized excitation state, or LE.
Still enough.
But because FeH3CP is forced into this twisted shape, it creates and stabilizes not just that LE state, but 2 other distinct lower energy states. They're called charge transfer states, CT1 and CT2.
So now there are three available energy states. It's like the excited electron is on a highway, and suddenly it has three different exit ramps it can take. And the ramp it chooses determines the color.
That's it, exactly. And the energy of the light you shine on it is the switch that directs it to one ramp or the other.
Okay, so let's take the first one, pathway I. What happens when we hit it with high-energy light?
Well, if you excite it with short wavelength light, anything below 310 nanometers, you activate pathway I. That leads to emissions from the LE state and that first CT1 state.
And that gives us what color?
A very distinct blue fluorescence. You get these dual emissions around 375 and 470 nanometers.
Okay, and what's the molecule itself doing during that quick flash of blue?
Almost nothing. It's a very fast, very efficient transition. The molecule barely has to shift its shape. They measured the rearrangement, the RMSD value, and it was super low, just 1.115 angstroms.
So it doesn't have to move much.
Right. So the decay time is incredibly fast, only about 3.88 nanoseconds. It's a quick snap back into place.
A quick snap, we get blue light.
Got it. Now for the interesting part. What happens if we use lower energy, a longer wavelength light?
Then you activate pathway 2, and the molecule enters a totally different energetic mode. This time you get emissions from the LE state, and more importantly, that second CC2 state. So now you see a dominant emission around 395 nanometers, but also a new, weaker one out at 550 nanometers. And 550 nanometers, that's shifting over toward yellow and red on the spectrum.
Exactly. The color literally changes. But this pathway it's a much bigger deal for the molecule.
How so?
Well, the CT2 state requires a huge amount of intramolecular motion. The molecule has to physically contort itself, twist its branches, to stabilize this new electronic state. The RMSD value jumps to 2.855 angstroms.
Wow, that's almost triple the movement.
It is. So you've gone from a quick little snap to this full-on, deliberate, slow molecular twist.
And I'm guessing that takes a lot more time.
Absolutely. Because it has to move so much more, the decay time, how long that yellow-red light persists, is much, much longer. It clocks in at 36.02 nanoseconds.
10 times longer.
10 times longer. The molecule is literally holding that twisted, high-energy state for way longer than the faster blue one.
And that's the functional breakthrough. This shift from a quick blue flash to a lingering yellow-red glow, and it's all happening inside one molecule.
That's why this is so revolutionary. They've essentially created a single dye that acts on demand, like two completely different materials.
That's incredible. But let's bring this down from quantum mechanics to a real-world application. Why is having one molecule with two light-controlled pathways so much better for something like a chemical sensor?
Because it doubles your information density while simplifying everything else.
Yeah.
You've got this dynamic, controllable color change, which makes for a really responsive and stable sensor.
Right, because traditional sensor arrays are grids with, a bunch of different dyes that each react to a different chemical. You're looking for a fingerprint pattern.
Exactly. But with those arrays, you're always fighting with stability and reproducibility. You're trying to make sure 10 different chemicals are all mixed perfectly and don't degrade.
But with CH3CP, you build the whole array out of the exact same molecule.
The exact same molecule. So instead of tracking 10 different things, you're just tracking how one thing behaves under two different lights. It's so much more elegant.
So how did they actually build the device?
They built a sensor array that uses this multicolor fluorescence to visually distinguish volatile organic compounds, or VOCs, and they used a really clever dual optical path setup.
Meaning they're hitting it with two kinds of light at the same time to get the most information possible?
Precisely. The sensor has two light sources arranged at right angles, a 308 nanometer one and a 365 nanometer one. And then it has two photodiodes watching for two different colors. The blue at 475 nanometers and the yellow-red at 560.
So for any chemical that hits the sensor, you get 4 data points. A complete signature from just one material.
Yeah.
What did they test it against?
They went after a really tough target. 6 structurally similar chlorinated hydrocarbons, CAHs.
Oh, those are notoriously hard to tell apart.
Extremely. Things like dichloromethane, chloroform, they look almost identical to a normal sensor. It requires really fine-grained differentiation.
It's like asking someone to tell the difference between 6 types of bottled water just by smelling them.
It's a very high bar. And the system was brilliant. They used statistical analysis, principal component analysis, and confirmed they could clearly separate and cluster all 6 of those analytes.
And it worked over a wide range of concentration.
A huge range, from 80 parts per million all the way up to over 1,200 ppm. But the really key metric was stability.
Right, because if it degrades, the accuracy is gone.
And that's the payoff of the single component design. The system kept its performance for nearly 140 hours of continuous illumination. No color aging, no segregation, just a highly stable, uniform, robust sensor.
That's a huge step.
Mhm.
It moves this from a cool lab curiosity into something you could actually deploy in the field for, say, environmental monitoring.
Exactly.
This has been absolutely fascinating. Let's just try and summarize the key insights from this work.
I think the first thing is the strategy itself, this novel symmetry breaking strategy. By deliberately designing this star-shaped molecule to be crowded, they forced it into an asymmetric shape, and that unlocked multiple electronic states in a single entity.
And second, that architectural twist is what gives you the dynamic color control. A single material that can span nearly 175 nanometers, from blue to yellow-red, just based on the light you use. And that's all intrinsic to the molecule shape.
And third, that robust property led to a real technological leap. A high-performance single-component sensor, an array that can distinguish between really challenging, similar chemicals with, unprecedented stability.
This really gives chemists a whole new tool to play with. It shows that deliberately manipulating molecular symmetry is a powerful way to fine-tune a material's properties.
I mean, it really opens the door for a whole new generation of materials in sensing, bioimaging, you name it.
It kind of tells us that sometimes the best way to improve a material is to introduce a perfect imperfection.
A perfect imperfection. I like that.
So it leaves you with a question. If controlling molecular symmetry can give us these dynamic colors and advanced sensors, what other properties could we unlock by intentionally creating asymmetry at the nanoscale? I mean, things like conductivity, or maybe even energy storage and batteries. We might just find that some of the biggest breakthroughs are hiding in the smallest, most deliberate flaws. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us. We hope you enjoyed exploring the physics of the twisted star molecule. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive into the fascinating world of knowledge.